to have you part of our new series. To give you a bit of a background, we're working with Hydrogen Europe and the SEC in order to bring a gaze to our sector and really dive into the background of people like yourselves and understand how people are on the front line really combating climate change. So to kick us off, can you take us back maybe to IBM and how you sort of started your career and how you've ended up here with me today, really?
Yeah, it's been a very long journey in many countries around the world. After graduating university, I went on a job exchange actually to the Philippines, of all places, at IBM. Worked in the telecom sector for a long time in Philippines, Singapore, Malaysia, and then somehow I found my way through a roundabout way doing telecom backup. And then at that time, I moved into a company called Ballard, which is well known in the fuel cell industry, because they had kind of a nice little product for telecom backup, which was really aligned with a lot of my thoughts on where we could go in telecom backup with a greener choice.
Yeah.
So I bid at the opportunity, and that brought me to the hydrogen and fuel cell industry, and that's where I am today. And it's brought me to obviously many countries and traveled all over the world, which is something I like to do as well.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And it might have changed throughout your career, but what was the deciding factor, would you say, and what drives you to work in sort of hydrogen fuel cells and the sustainability sector?
Yeah, I think, being part of the energy transition was important to me. In between telecom and fuel cell, I actually did a bit of work in solar, which I did enjoy as well. But then fuel cells came up, and I found this really neat, new, exciting technology. I saw the hard to abate sectors is areas that were not really being addressed, so I thought hydrogen and fuel cells could be that right link that allows for energy transition to be a little bit easier.
Yeah.
So it was attractive to me. It spoke to my core values as a person, really. I strongly believe in what we're doing. So when you wake up every day, every company has its challenges, people, politics, whatever. But if you wake up every day and you believe what you're doing, I think that's important. And that's something I definitely do, believe in what I'm doing in my day-to-day work.
Perfect. And you briefly touched upon it then, but there have been various challenges throughout your career. There's maybe a few key challenges that you've seen. What were they, and how have you sort of gone about navigating those issues?
Yeah, I mean, part of it, well, twofold, I'd say. One is the ups and downs of the industry. As we spoke a little bit precursor, we're kind of in maybe or going towards a third wave in the hydrogen industry. It's really chaotic at times, a lot of ups and downs, but I think in general there is a view that we're in a space that will be a major driver for decarbonization, and also a major potentially $1 trillion industry. So I think we're in that space where we're growing. There's still going to be a lot of hiccups along the way, but we're going to be a key component. Navigating other challenges, at the end of the day, is really, I think, and that's why I speak at 8 to 10 or so conferences a year, is educating people. That's some of the bigger challenges. There's a lot of misperception, a lot of misunderstanding in the industry. Just to give you an example, next week I'm speaking even at my children's school on demystifying hydrogen. So yeah, a lot of that is people have suddenly found this nice little first element, and they're trying to understand how does that all fit in with what our day-to-day life is, and industry and decarbonization. So I think that's a big challenge to demystify really what hydrogen is and how important it is to decarbonize our society.
Yeah, agreed. And it's great to hear that you're speaking to grassroots. We see that from a recruitment perspective, that with the waves that you mentioned, you find gaps in terms of the personnel that comes into the industry. So I do think the more eyes and gaze that we can get on the sector, and the more people coming from universities and joining the industry at an early age, will definitely keep pushing it forward. In relation to climate change, what do you think the biggest achievements you've had over the years are?
Yeah, I mean, some can be related to some of the projects I've been involved in. I think a lot of these projects, if you don't have, a lot of people say, and I disagree, that if we put a product and things are going to happen. Unless you educate and are involved in the selling process, they
Mhm.
often don't happen. So I've been involved in some key projects. The first large bus project globally in China was quite instrumental in, of course, selling the project, but being involved in rolling that out. I was involved in a megawatt, the first 10 megawatt fuel cell in Korea.
Mhm.
And of course, for me, I think it's a general achievement. Is what I alluded to earlier. Is really
Yeah.
be an advocate for, especially when I was in Asia, I was known as the hydrogen guy, being an advocate for hydrogen in the region, going
Yeah.
to conferences, telling the story, explaining even in layman's terms what it really means that hydrogen is a part of our decarbonization strategy. So
Yeah.
I think I've felt that that's really a key factor as well.
Yeah. Definitely. And there might be things that you can't touch upon, but with Advent, is there any sort of key projects you're working on at the moment that will be great for decarbonisation?
Yeah, I think for me, a lot of my work has been, hydrogen and fuel cells, but now a little bit of a pivot towards methanol. So that's an area that is quite exciting. I think a lot of us have seen the strong interest from the marine and shipping sector.
Yeah.
We're heavily involved in. We have an agreement with Siemens Energy as one example, but what we're seeing is the challenges of liquid of transport and storage of hydrogen are a challenge, thus liquid fuel and methanol, although it's not perfect, I think it's a good interim step to use methanol as a way to decarbonize fairly cost effectively
Yeah.
when you move fuel around. And we know that is a challenge with hydrogen. So methanol has reared up as a real building block. It's not going to be the right solution for everything, but I think it's going to be a great building block for marine, for power, and certain transport applications as well.
Yeah. Fantastic. And I'm going to take you back a little bit now, maybe to you packing your bag, packing your swim shorts when you were heading over to the Philippines, joining IBM. What would be the three sort of key pieces of advice, thinking retrospectively, or maybe things that you've learned throughout your career that you'd maybe give to a younger Alan kicking off your career?
Yeah, I think it is obviously finding an industry you enjoy,
Hmm.
finding a position or let's say area of a company that you enjoy, whether that's even starting up your own business. But I think that's one area is obviously, I think very logically is finding an area that you do enjoy, both from an industry perspective and a job perspective, and
Hmm.
finding out where you want to be. I enjoyed being an expat, living in different parts of the world. I'm now in Germany. Eventually, I someday I'll make it back to my home country, Canada. But I
Yeah.
think really, that for me was important to be able to see the world as well in a position that allows me to see it even more, and also being in an area that I do enjoy from a sector. I'm not an engineer. Everybody seems to think I am just because I'm in technology. But
Yeah.
in any company, in any organization, you do need a mix. Technology companies don't need only engineers. They need human resources, finance, people in sales. Often, business background is important. But yeah, I think it's really finding an area that you enjoy and finding an area that you're comfortable with,
Yeah.
and being aggressive in pushing that forward and confident. So
Yeah. No, definitely. And I think that's great advice for anyone starting the career. I think I echo that. When I was sort of studying, I always just did things that I like, and now I do a job that I enjoy, right? So yeah, it's super important to follow what your passions are and what you like doing, because then you would hope that you end up doing something that adds value and that you enjoy as well. And we were speaking before camera as well in terms of the amount of projects and how we're going to have to look at other industries maybe to have people transition across to provide the surplus of skill sets that we need. If you were maybe speaking to people in the oil and gas sector or the nuclear or additional energy, what advice would you give people that might be looking to transition into hydrogen or fuel cells or any aspect of the value chain, really?
Yeah. I mean, I've had a lot of people approach me. I've tried to even keep up. You know, a lot of people on LinkedIn ask me, you know, how do you get into it? It's a challenge to keep up, but I think the key is to really have a basic understanding of the industry and where it can fit.
Mm-hmm.
Learn the industry as much as you can. You know, there's associations or groups like Mission Hydrogen that do a lot of
Yeah.
great seminars. Those are all free, to my understanding. A majority of them are free. So I think really educating yourself, and I know of quite a few people from the oil and gas industry have already moved
Mm-hmm.
into this sector. They see, you know, climate change is real, and they want to make an impact potentially in another manner, and move from let's say oil and gas to a cleaner industry. So I think the key is to really educate yourself first, see where you can fit in, see where your skill sets can be transferable potentially from one sector to another, and start to network. I mean, going to events and then starting to get people's knowledge in the industry, reading the articles. I do that every day, so you know, LinkedIn and other formats are a great way to do that. So yeah, I think that's really to get a basic understanding super important.
Yeah, definitely. And as you said, there is a lot of outlets out there. I think for me, it'd be good to have sort of I don't know, maybe a governing body that provided more free learning for people to enter the sector as well, that people can tie into. So it's something that we're looking at, and I think, yeah, it could be very beneficial. But as I said, and always on, it's great to catch up with you and have you part of the series. If it hits one person and strikes home, and we get one more person in the industry, then we've done our job, right? So yeah, absolute pleasure, and really appreciate you jumping on.
Okay, great. Thank you, George.